Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Labha Giridhara Jasoranandana Braja Janarandana Nandana Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Nasaranandana Braja Janarandana Nandana Braja Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Jasodanandana Braja Janarandana Jasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Bala, Hare Bala. Hare Bala, Mithai Go, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Hare Bala, Hare Bala. Raja Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Vishnupada Paramahansa, Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Radha Govardhani ki jai, Krishna Balaram Giri Govardhani ki jai, Sri Gonithai ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 11. Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavitarit Saroja Ase Shrutek Chitapato Nanunata Pumsam Yad Yad Diyat Tu Urugaya Vibhavayanti Tad Tad Vapu Pranayase Saranugrahaya Tam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavitarit Saroja Ase Shrutek Chitapato Nanunata Pumsam Yad Yad Diyat Ta Urugaya Vibhavayanti Tad Tad Vapu Pranayase Saranugrahaya Someone else? Tvam, unto you, Bhakti Yoga, in devotional service, Paribhavita, being 100% engaged, Rit, of the heart, Saroje, on the lotus, Ase, you reside, Shruta Ikshita, seen through the ear, Pata, the path, Nanu, now, Nata, O my Lord, Pumsam, of the devotees, Yat Yat, whichever, Diya, by meditating, Te, your, Urugaya, O multi-glorious, Vibhavayanti, they specifically think of, Tat Tat, the very same, Vapu, transcendental form, Pranayase, do you manifest, Sat Anugrahaya, to show your causeless mercy. Translation. O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Purport. The statement here that the Lord manifests himself before the devotee in the form in which the devotee likes to worship him indicates that the Lord becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee, so much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands. This demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pliable in terms of the transcendental loving service of the devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.11, Yeyatam mam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham. We should note, however, that the Lord is never the order supplier of the devotee. Here in this verse, it is particularly mentioned, Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. This indicates the efficiency achieved through execution of matured devotional service or prema, love of Godhead. This state of prema is achieved by the gradual process of development from faith to love. On faith, one associates with bona fide devotees, and by such association, one can become engaged in bona fide devotional service, which includes proper initiation and the execution of the primary devotional duties prescribed in the revealed scriptures. This is clearly indicated herein by the word Srutekshita. Srutekshita path, the Srutekshita path is to hear from bona fide devotees who are conversant with Vedic wisdom, free from mundane sentiment. By this bona fide hearing process, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish, and thus he becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms of the Lord as described in the Vedas. This attachment of the devotee to a particular form of the Lord is due to natural inclination. Each and every living entity is originally attached to a particular type of transcendental service because he is eternally the servitor of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya says that the living entity is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Therefore, every living entity has a particular type of service relationship with the Lord eternally. This particular attachment is invoked by practice of regulative devotional service to the Lord, and thus the devotee becomes attached to the eternal form of the Lord, exactly like one who is already eternally attached. This attachment for a particular form of the Lord is called Swarupa Siddhi. The Lord sits on the lotus heart of the devotee in the eternal form the pure devotee desires, and thus the Lord does not part from the devotee as confirmed in the previous verse. The Lord, however, does not disclose himself to a casual or unauthentic worshipper to be exploited. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Shamavrita. Rather, by Yogamaya, the Lord remains concealed to the non-devotees or casual devotees who are serving their sense gratification. The Lord is never visible to the pseudo-devotees who worship the demigods in charge of universal affairs. The conclusion is that the Lord cannot become the order supplier of a pseudo-devotee, but he is always prepared to respond to the desires of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. From Bhakti Yoga Parivate Rit Saroja Aseshe Srutichita Patona Nunata Pumsam Yad Yadhyatu Urugaya Vibhavayanti Tat Tat Papu Pranayase Sat Anugrahaya. O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. So here, two levels of transcendence for devotees is mentioned by, is it Lord Brahma? Lord Brahma. The first level of someone who's on the path of devotional service, gradually progressing. And then in the second statement of Lord Brahma, he says that you are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in a particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Now, Prabhupada talks about this in his purport here. It's called Swarupa Siddhi. Siddhi means perfection. Swarupa. Rupa means the form. Swarupa means eternal form. Now, we have in the spiritual realm, we have our eternal spiritual forms, Swarupa Asiddhi. They're perfection. All of us, as spirit souls, were existing previously in our natural original position in the spiritual realm in relationship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And all of us had our eternal relationship with him and our eternal form. And he also mentioned is that those transcendental, fully perfected devotees, they are very attached to worshipping the Lord in a particular type of form that is very endearing to their hearts. They have so much love. And here, Prabhupada again states that there are many, practically unlimited forms of the Lord that come to the material world and also in the spiritual realm. There are so many unlimited manifestations of different forms of the Lord. And of course, in the material world, we read about so many times that Krishna has come previously in different incarnations. But in the spiritual world, particular form, particular relationship, to be Samipya, Shasti, and Sarupya, Mukti, all these different types of Mukti, liberation, can be there with the devotee, in the devotee's personal form. Now, in this material world, the personal form, our personal form is not so much manifest. We are in this body, we're in the region of the heart. Paramatma Krishna is also there in his Paramatma form, just overseeing and enabling everything. We are there more or less as our eternal form is not yet manifest. It is like we are there as like a spark, a spiritual spark in the body. Now, when one becomes perfect, then Krishna reveals himself, and the form of the living entity, the original form, becomes more and more manifest. That form, that personal form. And that is beyond the Brahman, the effulgence. That is, of course, beyond the material, beyond the Brahman, and in the Vaikuntha, and perhaps even in the Krishna Loka with the original personality of God in Sri Krishna. So that is called Swarupa Siddhi. This attachment for a particular form of the Lord is called Swarupa Siddhi. What is our eternal form? Swarupa Siddhi. So this manifests when one reaches the topmost perfection. So Lord Brahma is talking about that. The topmost perfection, when one reaches the path of the stage of prema, pure love. Now that doesn't come easy, especially for conditioned souls in the material world. And Prabhupada said there's a long journey for ordinary conditioned souls just to come, and Krishna says this, just to come to the path of God consciousness. Manushyanam sahasreshu kashya jatasidahe. This is mentioned by Krishna in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Out of many, many thousands and millions, one may want to take up the path of God consciousness. And out of those who take it up, Krishna says, hardly any one of them knows me in truth, actually. So it's a long journey for the conditioned soul just to the God consciousness. Now, those who come to the path of God consciousness and actually take up the path of being a devotee of the Supreme Lord, it's actually also, it is mentioned, it is a long path from when one begins the path of devotional service, and it's a long journey, you could say, from the beginning of devotional service right up to the perfectional stage of Krishna Prema. That is a long journey and takes a long time. One can't just immediately jump there, although one may have a sentiment. Of course, it's nice to want to go there, but one shouldn't expect they'll go very quickly. Of course, it's up to the individual. You can go very quickly, but generally for most of us, the progress is slow because of our continuing attachments and habits. So it is said in the beginning, here it is mentioned, talks about a Shraddha faith. So the journey is long from the Shraddha faith to Prema. So this is mentioned by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango Tat. So in the beginning, one may have a desire for spiritual life and come to the path of being devotee. Those who come to God, and then from the God, those who come to devotee. And then, then one has a desire. Then on reading and maybe associating, one gets a little faith in being a devotee, on being on the path of devotion. This is the very, very beginning. This is called Shraddha, very, very beginning. You have a little faith. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. And then then that faith leads you to want to associate with devotees more. I want to be a devotee. I have faith in the path of devotional service. I have faith in the goal of Krishna consciousness, and these others are also practicing the Krishna consciousness. Let me associate with them. Very, very important. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sabha Shastrakai, Sadhu Sangha, Sabha. Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha Siddhi Hai. Yeah, even a moment's association can give one the perfection. And there's all levels of devotees. So one can associate with a very, very advanced devotee. Prabhupada once said there's a difference between ordinary devotee and very great devotees. Great devotee, just by a few words, can change one's life completely to even to go to the topmost levels, if you can have a chance of associating with great devotees. But any association with, like bona fide devotees, serious devotees, very, very good. So that is the beginning. Shraddha, Ado, Shraddha, Tata Sadhu, Sangota, Bhajanakri. Then you start practicing, and this is what is talked about in the beginning of Lord Brahma's statement, in that, in the beginning, now the goal is prema, love, pure love. That pure love, it's like I always remember when I was initiated, Prabhupada was at the Yagya, and he said that, actually Madhavisa asked Prabhupada, these are the early days, and he said, at these Yagyas we chant this Om Apavitra Pavitrova Savarshtam Gatoviva Yashmedet Pundarikaksham Shabhi Mantra Suchi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. But Prabhupada, we don't know what it means. In the early days we kind of had those things, but we didn't exactly know all of them, what those mantras meant. So Prabhupada actually explained what the meaning of this mantra was. Om Apavitra, Pavitrovam, Pundarikaksham, the lotus-eyed personality of God. It's Sri Krishna, the lotus-eyed Lord. Pundarikaksham. And Pavitram, whether pure or unpure, if one surrenders to the lotus-eyed Vishnu, Krishna, Pundarikaksham, then one can attain the supreme perfection. So then he said that, now all you devotees, and especially all you initiates, Krishna is all pure, Pavitram. So if you want to associate with Krishna fully, you have to become pure as quickly as possible. Always remember, you have to become pure. But so that's the goal. And there's a lot of habits over many lifetimes. We have the desire, but it's a long journey. So in the beginning you have faith, then you associate, very good, then you start serious engagement, bhajana kriya. That's what Lord Brahma is talking about here. You can see Krishna in the beginning. We can't see with these eyes Krishna. He is spiritual, and we don't have the eyes to see the spiritual, direct spirit. We can see Krishna in the form of the deity, and especially is mentioned hearing. You can see Krishna through hearing, Shravanam, just like the process. Prahlad Maharaj gives the 9 processes of devotional: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Shmaranam, Parasevanam, Achanam, Mandanam, Dashyam, Sapkam, Atmanivedanam. 9. Now, it is mentioned that any one of these can lead one to perfection, but the start is Shravanam, and hearing. Very, very important. Hearing. So by hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, hearing the topics about the Supreme Personality of God, hearing, and then chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam. So all of them are very important. If you can do any one of them or all of them together. But especially mentioned, and Prabhupada has actually stated that if you go in chronological order, the first one is Shravanam. And here he mentions it again, and Lord Brahma mentions that you can see Krishna through your ears. Very, very important. You can see, you can understand, by hearing about Krishna, you can actually begin to understand, at least begin to understand Krishna. So this is bhajana kriya, you're starting, and here Prabhupada mentions, then you go along, you start following the different rules and regulations. This is to situate yourself in the mode of goodness, because you're trying to come to the pure level. And just like if you want pure juice, you have to start getting rid of all the impurities that come in the beginning. Then you can get to the pure. Everyone likes pure water. Not many people, I know at least, like to drink contaminated water. Maybe there's some mad people out there who go, "Oh, give me that contaminated." Which one, pure or can I give me the contaminated? No. But generally, we want pure water. So to get the pure water, you have to get rid of all the impurities. So everyone is desirous of that. So we have to get rid of our impurities in the beginning, and that's this anata nivriti, aroshara tada sadhu, sangota, bhajana kriya. You start the process. And then you have to you start to get rid of all the bad habits, all these mundane attachments. You start to purify the heart, cleanse. Here the word is used, cleansing the heart. So this is very, very important. And of course, then anata nivriti, and then getting them down to almost nil. You've worked up, and then only then, when you've cleanse the heart to that point of all those things, then can you actually come to what's the next platform is called Nishta, steadiness. Steadiness. It's very. I think I remember when Devamrita Maharaj, he gave a nice class about. He said, "Look, if you're not going to get to if you can't be steady in your Krishna consciousness, you're not going to be able to get back home, back to Godhead. It's going to be virtually impossible. You have to be steady to stay on the path. Stay on the path, and that steadiness comes from following the previous levels. So that nishta, very, very important nishta, and then nishta, then ruchi. Then only then will you get true ruchi. Of course, the acharyas have explained there are threads of all these levels going through all the levels. You can get a little ruchi in the earlier levels and so on and so forth. But if you go now, this is all very nicely explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Khandam meaning. And then, of course, then from ruchi means taste. You start to get a deep taste. And that can only come from when you're steady, nishta. You get a deep taste. Even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about two levels of ruchi, higher and lower levels of taste. Even when you get to ruchi, he talks about that. But anyway, there's all these levels are described very nicely, very kindly by our acharyas. Ruchi, you get a taste, and then a shaktis, the next level, you become so attached to you begin to follow in the footsteps of a very liberated devotee, perhaps in Krishna Leela or Vaikuntha Leela. You start to follow them. As they do their devotional service, you are trying to do your devotional service like that. That's a Shakti. And then Bhava. Bhava is to start to get love. Start to get love. It's the beginning of it, not fully matured love yet. And the other day I gave an example, no, it was the class at Southport. I gave an example of the mango. The difference between bhava and prema, beginning love and mature love, is that can be compared to the green mango and the ripe mango. The green mango is very nice, can be utilized, but the ripe mango is considered the topmost. The topmost perfection. So that's prema, total love. So there's a long journey there, isn't there? A long journey. But of course, if we follow the process very nicely, and then someone who has reached the top, here Lord Brahma has mentioned that Krishna is so kind, so inclined to them, so inclined. And factually speaking, you want to know if Krishna doesn't fully manifest to him, even to devotees, unless they are on this level of prema. This is very much stated in the next verse in the purport, where Prabhupada talks about sakama devotees and nishkama devotees. Sakama means you're a devotee, but you still have a lot of material desires. And he talks about the demigods. Even though you're a higher planet, you have a lot of material. All devotees on this planet, they want to be devotees, but they want to simultaneously have material desires, go on with their material life. So, and Prabhupada talks about it. Now, we're talking about high levels here. All that is still good because they're devotees. But if you really want to go high, then Prabhupada this says that actually Krishna doesn't fully manifest himself to those sakama devotees. He doesn't. He only manifests himself fully to nishkama devotees because of their love. The sakama devotees, Prabhupada goes so far as to say, actually, Krishna is dissatisfied with them. He's dissatisfied with them. And why? Because he's concerned about them. They run the risk of falling back down if they maintain that level. That's the risk, because the material energy is very powerful. It's very entangling. You can go a high level, but at any moment it's so powerful you can just get whipped right back in it. Who was that? Rupa, I think you were given. No, who was it the other day? It was Ikshvaku was talking about the different levels of material energy. One level is to cover you over, and the other one is to pull you back in. So it's very powerful. So Prabhupada actually says Krishna is not very satisfied with the devotees, and even their demigods, or if they're devotees on earth, if they keep maintaining their material attachment. He's not very satisfied. He says that he's dissatisfied with them because he's concerned. You run the risk. Yeah, you can stay there, but you run the risk of getting pulled back down, and who knows, you may have to spend some time diverted in some other direction. So, and you know, it goes back to what I said about Prabhupada at my initiation, that he said, all you new initiates, you have to become pure like Krishna if you want to associate as quickly as possible. As quickly as possible. But of course, in the beginning, faith. You have to have strong faith through good association. All these things are very necessary. It reminds me of the story of, there's one story, I might have told it before, of the devotee of Lord Jesus. He was a good devotee of Lord Jesus, had a lot of faith in Jesus. But he got very sick, very, very sick, almost on the verge of death. He lost a lot of weight, got very, very skinny. All his friends were very concerned. You know, this one was telling him, try this, the other one said, try that, different things were tried, nothing was working. He was getting skinnier and sicker, almost on the verge of death. And then one of them said, oh, why don't we go see Jesus? You know, he's known to do all sorts of miracles, you know, let's go and see Jesus. So they went to see Jesus. And Jesus said that, yes, he has to fast for 30 days, taking no food, only water. Fast 30 days, no food, only water. So some of the friends of this man, they were so disgusted with him. He's almost dead, and now Jesus is telling him to fast. Look how skinny, he's going to die. So they became disgusted. They gave up their faith in Jesus. And then Jesus said, and then bring him back after 30 days. So some other friends brought him back after 30 days. Then he told one of his associates, said, go make some hot milk. Make hot milk with honey, a lot of honey. Hot milk and honey, put it in a flask. And then go over there and get him to hold it in front of his mouth with his mouth open. But don't drink it. Hold it there, don't drink it. Don't drink it. Hold it there. And so some of the other friends, they said, no, now he's torturing him. He got him to fast for 30 days, and now he's holding it out there. Now it's torture. So they became disgusted and went off. But this man was a very devout follower of Jesus. He had faith. He just held it there for a long, long time. Long time. You know, no, keep holding it, keep holding it. Gradually, what was going on that Jesus knew that actually the problem was that this man had a big tapeworm in his intestines. So, of course, the tapeworm hadn't eaten for 30 days. It fasted also for 30 days. So then with the smell of the honey and the milk, that tapeworm had made its way up and it come out. And Jesus was there, right there, watching. And he saw it just poking up. And he reached into the mouth and pulled it out and threw it on the ground. Said, all right, now you can drink. So this man had kept the faith. You often hear this. Keep the faith. You have to keep the faith. But, you know, you have to keep the faith not just sentimentally. You have to keep it intelligently by following the process as outlined here. Yes, you have the faith, associate with devotees, start the process. Be a serious devotee. Be a serious devotee. I mean, you can be any level of devotee, and that's beneficial. But if you want to go to the top, just like, you know, if you want to race in the Olympics, you're a runner or something like that. I mean, you could kind of like go casually, or if you want to be a swimmer. Yeah, and you want to get to the Olympic levels, you want to win the gold medal. You know, you imagine the training that's required there. These guys, they get up at, I was reading, they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, they go down to the pool, they do like 100 laps or something like that. It's a drudge. I think Mukunda Maharaj was saying the other day, just like if you want to learn the musical instrument, a piano or trumpet. You know, I learned these instruments when I was younger, trumpet also. And then you have to, it's a drudge, it's a real drudge, you know, get the lessons and keep going, and the music instructor's right there, you know, no, you did it wrong, so do it again. It's a real drudge. But then he made a very good example. And then he said, but actually when you become proficient, it becomes very enjoyable. You can play, oh, this is nice, now I can play so many different things, very enjoyable. So in the beginning, yes, following all these different rules and regulations, as Maharaj said, Mukunda Maharaj said, they have to get up early and there's a cold and this and that and the other thing. But you do it, you force yourself because the goal is it. Just like these athletes, they force themselves. Do you think they like getting up at 4 o'clock, going on the track and running around, for hours on end? You think they, in the pool at 5 o'clock in the morning and up and down? They don't. But they want to attain the high. So if we want to attain the high levels of Krishna consciousness, we have to follow the process very seriously, as mentioned here by Lord Brahma. He mentions the topmost level, but then it's almost like a caution. Now, wait a minute. That's the topmost. And another strong point stated here is about Krishna's position, how he responds to, and the word is used, pliable. He's very pliable. When we say something is pliable, it's like opposite to rigid. If something is very rigid, you can't do anything else. It's rigid. It's just rigid. That's it, and that's all it's ever going to be. It's rigid, right? But Krishna is very pliable, and he reacts to love, to the love. When someone has that level of love, it just melts Krishna. It melts Krishna, and whatever that devotee wants, Krishna wants to fulfill it. But on the other hand, those who are pseudo, casual, non-devotees who make a show, all these, he's not very inclined. Nam prakasa sarvasya yogamaya shama. These verses from Gita are quoted. Ye tam mam prabhajyanti tam satava. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. I always remember this in Melbourne when Prabhupada was giving a Gita class at night time. At the end of the class, someone said, Swami, it says in Gita that you can follow anybody, because Krishna says, everyone follows my path in all respects. The Prabhupada said, yes, but you forgot the first half of that verse. He says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So then he said, he had the example, just like there's in the city here, you have very high skyscraper buildings, 50 stories. Now you can take the stairs to get to the top, or you can take the elevator and be there in a few moments. This Krishna consciousness is like taking the elevator. Or you can take the stairs. Yes, Krishna is manifest in all different ways. So you can associate with Krishna through the material energy, you can associate through Brahman, or you can associate directly with the personality of Godhead. As you surrender. But he doesn't manifest himself. This is very interesting. Nam Prakasa Sab, Yogamaya. The Yogamaya covers the Mahamaya, the Yogamaya, covers the conditioned soul. And even for those who are devotees, but not fully perfected devotees, not on the level of prema, he doesn't fully manifest to them. Very interesting point. Krishna, now the high devotee worships Krishna, and Krishna is so pliable, he manifests like that's Swarup Siddhi. He manifests in that form out of love for that devotee. Whatever they want, he's willing to do. But for others, he doesn't. That'll be abused. Nor will they appreciate, nor will they understand, even for ordinary devotees, what to speak of non-devotees. So very, very interesting point. So you are unavailable for the non-devotee, even for the devotee. And finally, Prabhupada says here, but he is always prepared to respond to the desires of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. So this is the goal. This is the level that any serious devotee wants to attain. But it is a long journey. One has to have patience. One has to have determination. One has to associate with the devotees and keep the shraddha, keep the faith, but do it intelligently. Hare Krishna. I'll read this verse again if anyone has any question or comment. Oh my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing. Must their hearts become cleansed? And you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Any questions? Yes, Ram.
Thank you very much. Where it's talking about that Krishna will manifest in a particular form, so we can understand that most devotees were sort of attracted to the two-handed sort of Vrindavan form of Krishna. What are these forms that Krishna can manifest? Because Prabhupada says you manifest in your heart. Any idea of these different forms?
Well, I mean, unlimited forms. It's not that everyone, to be a devotee of God, not necessarily a devotee of Krishna can be a devotee of Lord Ram. In the spiritual realm, you can read this in the Sanatana Goswami's work. What is that called? Srimad Bhagavatam, where he, what was it the devotee's name who went to Nanda Kumar. Yeah, he went to all the different levels of the Vaikuntha, and there one level was Ayodhya Dham, where Lord Ram resides there, just at the gateway. There's a nice description there, just at the gateway of the Krishna Loka. So there Lord Ram is manifest. So someone may be a devotee of Lord Ram, so therefore that form of Lord Ram manifest, or may be a devotee of Vishnu, and the Vishnu has different forms. It may be a devotee of Lord Nrsingadev. And so if one is a devotee of Lord Nrsinga or Lord Vara or so many other different unlimited forms. So Krishna is so kind that if the devotee is a devotee of one of these forms, Krishna actually manifests that form in the heart of a devotee. It's an amazing thing that he'll manifest as Lord Varaha or Lord Nrsingadev. But of course, now the Swarup city is eternally there, but it is said that if one comes to the movement of Lord Chaitanya, then one gets the special mercy of Madhurya Rasa, as in the mood of Lord Chaitanya. And so even though one's Swarup city may be something else and their service may be something else, that can be changed by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and one can go to the Madhurya Rasa. In other words, one can be the Vatsalya Rasa or Sakya Rasa or Dasya Rasa. That's their eternal Swarup city. But then by the mercy, by Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, all can, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, go to Madhurya Rasa and then take a form that is suitable for Madhurya Rasa. So, but other than that's an eternal, the Swarup city is an eternal form in eternal service to Krishna. Yes. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? One, yes, Prabhu was first.
Is our absence in the spiritual realm just momentary?
From the viewpoint of eternality, it's certainly momentary. But whilst in this world, it can be a very long time. So it's a question of eternality versus relative time in the material world.
We have an eternal form. So then we enter this temporary existence. So,
but that can be a long time. So if you understand it from the eternality on that level, it's very short. But as far as the experience of coming to the world, that can be a long time. Like you can stay in the material for a long time. But I'm talking about the comparison of eternality versus life in the material world, even of many lifetimes. So that makes it momentary, which was your point. But as far as the actual time spent, that can be a long time for the conditioned soul. Yeah.
Would our absence be noted? I mean,
Noted by who? By Krishna certainly notes it. All right.
It's a deep subject.
I'll let you. Right. Yeah, I know. I'll let you ponder that a little bit more. Final question. Yes. Over here, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the class. These levels of devotional service and as the stages of devotees can grow all the way to Bhakti Prema. When a student in material world trying to learn anything, usually student is given a test, English test, and they see exactly where this person is, and then they determine what's the next step and what's the next best lesson for the person is. With devotional progress, I find for myself that it's quite difficult because we smile and we in illusion. We also were prone to ego. So, if I would test myself on a good day, I would go, oh yeah, I feel so much love for Krishna, I can become sannyasi tomorrow. Or, on the bad day, I would go, I failed so much in service, I might just leave the movement altogether. So it's very subjective and very unreliable when I inquire within myself. Is there an objective way to test and see?
Well, it's only unreliable because of our own efforts. The path is reliable if you follow it just nicely. But well, just like any student, even in the material world, the path is reliable. These are the subject matters you need to learn, and these are the exams you need to have. And so, all right. So if you do that and do everything nicely under the watchful eye, then you can progress to the next level, as you stated. But even on the material level, the student might not do that. May choose to not study. All sorts may be diverted to so many other ways and fail and have to keep going back and doing it again. So that we see in the material world. So same thing on the spiritual level. The pathway is clear. The pathway is reliable. It's there given by the Supreme Personality. It's given by the great sages. There's certainly many others in the past. Krishna says himself in Bhagavad Gita, there are many in the past who became liberated by following this process of devotional service. He says that. Many in the past have done it. So because you see others in the past doing it, you see many advanced devotees who have come up. Then you take your association with them, and you get your enthusiasm, even though you may be wavering due to one reason or another. But you see others, and they may have had previously their difficulties and so on, but they've stayed on the path and they've moved forward. So therefore, when we see them, so you become enthused. So that's why it's very important to associate with devotees very closely. So objective, I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Objective in that you can test yourself along the way. In that, how much attachment you have, and Prabhupada stated that quite a few times. So if you test yourself, how much attachments and how much inclination do I have, and therefore am I actually advancing on the devotional path? So it can be objective in that way. You can test yourself. But we should have faith as far as the path. It's clear, reliable. It works. It works. Thank you. Nice question. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.